the equivalent of that is an opinion poll. Today in Mexico, 81% of people are against it. The majority of people are against Bosnia or Kosovo or lots of other things I did. You have to ask yourself, where's it going to come out at the end? When Gary Cooper wrote Out of Town at the end, they were happy. They were glad to be rid of Frank Miller and his gang. It's the same thing.
Exactly. Now, if I were to make a movie about your life, who would you want? And don't worry, you can name any actor. We won't tell anybody. Who would you want to play you, Mr. President?
Gosh, I don't know. I don't know. I would trust your judgment more than mine on that.
Brad Pitt? George Clooney?
Too good looking. George Clooney is at least more my size.
Right, and not that good looking.
No. Too good looking, but you could put bulbous things on his nose. You could do makeup with him. He was great in his movie last year. Was great. His Hawaii movie. What was the name of the movie?
Descendants.
It's fabulous. He was so good in it, so real.
I thought it was great too. And Hillary, who would you play Hillary in this movie?
Meryl Streep.
When you're in that special club of people that have almost limitless political and social power, there really isn't much that can knock you off. And we see from the clip that was just shown that in this case you have two people, one in the field of entertainment, the other one in the field of politics. Vastly different backgrounds. One of them is from backwoods of Arkansas. The other one is, I think he's a Jew from Brooklyn, Harvey Weinstein and Bill Clinton. Two people that were basically engaging in a session of washing each other's hands using this sort of world that they've built where it's just praising one another and giving each other all of the benefit of the doubt and deceiving the entire country into believing that they represent the virtues of a society that's let them get away with everything that they have. Now, before I tear into this whole topic, I don't think that Harvey Weinstein's movies should be condemned or that his career should be scrapped or that we should start, censoring everything that has to do with Harvey Weinstein or Harvey Weinstein, whatever pronunciation is proper. I think he goes by Weinstein, so let's call him Harvey Weinstein. I think that people should learn to separate the art from the artist. The same thing with Roman Polanski. But what should be remembered is that instead of giving standing ovations and glad handing them all the time based on their political affiliations, these people should really be condemned for their actions, and nobody epitomizes that more than Harvey Weinstein and Bill Clinton. Both of them. This clip was from several years ago. Weinstein was filling in for Larry King. I think Larry King is famous for getting something like 7 divorces, and he never really found the one or something. Let's just say that even from somebody with as flawed of a personal life as Larry King, both Clinton and Weinstein could have taken a note on how to stay classy. And the thing is that in a few years, I think people are going to look back on this and try to portray Weinstein as the victim here. So before we get any further, let's look at his career. Now, he was born here in Flushing, which is in Queens, I believe. Look at the number of films he's had that have been knockout successes. There's Pulp Fiction, Clerks. Clerks is one of my all-time favorites. Are you going to stop watching Clerks because of what happened with Weinstein? I'm not going to. Sex, Lies, and Videotape. Then you have Shakespeare in Love. The Producers. Well, that's a play that he produced. That's based on that. I guess is the adaptation of the Mel Brooks production. Billy Elliot and August Osage County. And now they added the whole thing where he he abused all these women. But look down. Here's a sort of complete list. Actually, it's not even nearly complete. So we have Reservoir Dogs. He got Madonna, Truth or Dare. I bet he'd like to forget that. The Postman. There is The Crow, City of Angels. That wasn't so bad. Jackie Brown. So a lot of Tarantino movies. Good Will Hunting. One of the best movies that came out in the 90s. Cider House Rules, another one. Scary Movie. Not so much. Chocolat. The Yards. I actually liked that one. Lord of the Rings. I think this was the first installment. Project Greenlight. Chicago. Okay, so that was a huge hit when it came out. Lord of the Rings, The Return of the King. So you have all of these, and I could keep going. I mean, there's movies all throughout the decades. Rambo. This is a new one. Zack and Miri Make a Porno. The King's Speech. Fantastic. Yeah, that's a fantastic movie. This is a guy, he has so many years under his belt of supporting, independent filmmakers and bringing people to the apex of film. But with the revelation of what he did, I think that it deserves special attention that there's people like this all over industry and society, and we shouldn't just accept it because of all the good things that he did. I mean, remember, I think that in the world of sports, which we're about to get to, Jerry Sandusky should be remembered as one of those people who was brilliant at what he did, but inside he was kind of this disgusting perv and a monster. That's just a guy who was a linebackers coach. This was one of the most powerful producers in the history of Hollywood, Harvey Weinstein. And I have to say, I'm ashamed of having somebody like that representing, America, representing the Jewish people, and I guess I should throw in that this has to be validated. It's not like we can assume that all the allegations are true, or that any of the allegations are true. I'm assuming that there should be, there's going to have to be some sort of legal recourse for the victims. So I can't just assume that Harvey Weinstein will be convicted or, at least implicated fully by a court of law for what he's done. Because we've seen over and over again that people get off. Didn't Bill Cosby just get acquitted of a bunch of crimes? Well, the power of doubt and the power of, the celebrity is so potent in America that who's to say what will happen to Harvey Weinstein? Roman Polanski's escaped justice for decades. And he still gets standing ovations at the Academy Awards from people like Meryl Streep. And these people will turn around, and obviously in the political world, they condemn people like Trump. They'll condemn people like Mike Pence, who doesn't have any sexual allegations against him yet. They'll condemn them for the suspicion of sexual impropriety, the suspicion of harassment, and all that. It just goes to show you that it's not what you know, it's who you know in Hollywood and in political Hollywood. So while Hollywood and the media are attempting to wrestle with the fact that one of their own and one of their most elites is embroiled in one of the most shocking sex scandals of the past few years, which in retrospect was actually quite easy to discover before, and we'll get to that too. Who is really the focus of the ire of the media? It's Panthers quarterback Cam Newton, who said it's funny to hear a female talk about notes. Now, Cam Newton said this. He said, when Jordan Rodriguez, the Charlotte Observer's Panthers beat writer, asked Newton about the pride he takes in the success of his receivers and how second-year tight end Devin Funchess was progressing in his routes, Newton chuckled and said, It's funny to hear a female talk about routes. It's funny. So I missed that. I'm not going to play the audio because it's probably going to come out shitty, but I've missed that. But honestly, do you think that the response to this is really that big of a deal? Do you think people should really be taking this that seriously? I get it that his comment was a bit stupid, but honestly, who cares? This is a guy, he made one small comment, but this is a statement that Rodrigue issued after this. She said, "This afternoon I did my job as an NFL beat writer and asked Cam Newton a question about one of his receivers. I was dismayed by his response, which not only belittled me but countless other women before me and beside me who work in similar jobs. I sought Mr. Newton out as he left the locker room a few minutes later. He did not apologize for his comments." So then Newton's comments drew ire from across the sports and media landscapes. The NFL, the Association for Women in Sports Media, and the Associated Press sports editors all issued statements condemning Newton. And the AWSM said, "It is very discouraged by Cam Newton's disrespectful remarks and actions directed to a female reporter during today's Carolina Panthers press conference. As a watchdog group, AWSM demands fair treatment and positive workplace environments for women working in sports media." And then Christine Brennan, another female sports journalist, said the comments are just plain wrong and disrespectful to the exceptional female reporters and all journalists who cover our league. NFL spokesman on Cam Newton's comments continues, "They do not reflect the thinking of this league." While the brunt of the criticism fell on Newton, Rodrigue was asked on Twitter why she or other media members didn't push back immediately. So Jordan Rodrigue said, "I spoke with him after and it was worse. I chose not to share because I have an actual job to do today and one he will not keep me from." Though Rodrigue said in her statement that Newton did not apologize, a Panther spokesperson said Newton and Rodrigue had a conversation where he expressed regret for using those words. "Women have fought an uphill battle for sports." This is where they start to editorialize. "Women have fought an uphill battle in sports journalism for decades, and you have to look back only a few months for another instance of sexism in sports. In May, Seahawks defensive end Frank Clark apparently took issue with Bleacher Report's Natalie Weiner for writing on domestic violence nearly 2 years prior, tweeting at her and later deleting, 'People like you don't have long careers in your field. I have a job for you cleaning my fish tank when that little job is over.'" I like the way he spelled it at the end. Similar to Panthers' vague response that emphasized striving as a department to make the environment for the media comfortable for everyone covering the team, Clark tweeted this in response: "Apologize to anyone who felt offended by my tweet earlier. We got to do better for supporting these major issues we face in this world." Now, Clark was arrested on suspicion of domestic violence in 2014 and later pleaded guilty to a lesser charge. So, why am I comparing these two incidents? Well, first of all, Newton, he said something a bit insensitive, if you can even call it that, about female reporters. But he didn't harm anybody. He didn't harass anybody. He was prompted by her. He apologized for it. And this is a guy who's been attacked by the media constantly for nothing. For some things on the field, yes, it is a bit justified, such as claiming that he's a baby and he doesn't know how to handle himself in front of the media and he's pouting on the sideline and things like that. Okay, you can maybe make the case that that's that's a legitimate complaint. But what he's also been attacked for not being more political. He's been attacked for generally being a more commercial athlete, a guy who doesn't really want to get into off the field topics. He wants to focus more on his performance and on selling products and whatever. And there was just a report today that he lost his sponsorship with Dannon yogurt in favor of Dak Prescott. And you can see I'm wearing this jersey that's Ezekiel Elliott. I don't know. I mean, Ezekiel Elliott's been under the gun lately for comments about women or not comments about women, but domestic violence allegations and allegations that he and video of him lifting the shirt of a woman. So Dak Prescott has to work with Ezekiel Elliott in the huddle. So how much is that really shifting, the PR field a little? You're going from a guy who said something insensitive to the media to a guy like Dak Prescott, who, okay, he hasn't had any issues with women. He's had a DUI issue. He's had issues where, he's had teammates that have had issues with women. So, in my opinion, this is just a game of musical chairs. These corporate whores, these corporate media whores, they want to shift, depending on what's most comfortable for them. They want to shift their sponsorship to people that are neutral and won't pose any issue as far as their personal or their corporate image. Okay, that's really the problem that I see with this whole NFL plus corporate America relationship. And then you go further. If I'm going to editorialize myself, you have other people. Des Bryant, a person who became political this year, not really even political. He was saying he doesn't believe that America is holding back his community, the black community, racially. He thinks that they have the ability to succeed on their own. All they need to do is really believe. That I'm kind of summarizing and paraphrasing what he said, but he got tremendously roasted for that. A huge amount of hate. People completely piled onto him, and he didn't get any media backing for that. In fact, they left him out to dry. So let me put this into perspective right now. We are talking about people that are either celebrities in entertainment or in sports. And, even though I supported Des Bryant in his statements, and I did express at the time, I put out a few messages in support of what he said, did he deserve to get all the criticism that he did get? I don't think that's really a question. People obviously didn't like what he said, especially the people on the identity politics side of the spectrum, and they let him know accordingly. And nothing happened. People weren't ostracized from their jobs. If anything, it taught him that when you're a celebrity in the public eye, yes, people do care about your opinions, even if they're not really things that are necessarily political. I don't think he was trying to make a political statement. Unfortunately, the other side doesn't understand that when it comes to their own opinions. You have this whole issue with the Kaepernick protest and with the other players kneeling for the anthem, and what the media and what many other people can't seem to understand. The media and the Democrats and the supporters of the anthem protest, what they don't understand is that you can protest all you want, you can make as many statements as you want. Yes, that's your constitutional right, and nobody can take that away from you. It doesn't matter if we oppose you or if we support you. Look, I'm not one of these people that's saying I'm not going to watch any games. I'm definitely watching less games because they're less interesting and because it's become politicized and because the focus is no longer on the entertainment aspect of the game, which, to be honest with you, was kind of getting boring last season as well in many respects. These people that they've politicized sports so much, they don't realize that they are strangling they're strangling the cow that's giving them all the milk. Whereas with the Weinstein scandal, they actually have something there that is a bona fide scandal, decades in the making. This is a person of power, a white male, despite what you might think racially. There's a person in power who used his position in order to force women into compromising positions. Don't you think that is a lot more of an issue than Cam Newton, an NFL player that simply had a slip of the tongue or expressed an opinion that was a bit, behind the times? And furthermore, if you're so in favor of athletes having free speech and expressing their opinions, then suddenly you get an opinion that you don't like, and there's an uproar, and you start condemning him, and the condemnation parade begins, and suddenly they don't believe in freedom of speech. It's the same thing that happened with Bryant. They didn't condemn what he said, but they sure as hell didn't defend him. So this double standard in terms of free speech and in terms of who can say what and when is something that the media still can't get a handle on, because they all know deep inside their hearts that there's already a consensus in their editorial rooms. There's a consensus in front of the camera. There's a consensus where they go to, exchange stories in the press box, wherever they are. There's already a consensus that's been built years ago, and it's being determined whether they like it or not. Jason Whitlock talks about it. He's I wouldn't say he's even a conservative. He's more of a dissident in the sports media world. Skip Bayless used to express such things. He doesn't anymore. He's kind of become a pussy. You can't have a media that will automatically subscribe to the same bullshit narrative as everybody else, where you just have this chorus of screaming birds asking for regurgitated food from the mama bird. That you cannot have a media like that and then expect people to actually believe in these sports stories. Just today there was a sports story coming out, I think from CBS, that claimed that Colin Kaepernick would be willing to stand again for the anthem if he was signed by an NFL team. Apparently, in the past hour or so, he issued a statement where he said, no, that's not true. I still wouldn't stand for the anthem. So with this type of back and forth bullshit that's going on with the media, and with Colin Kaepernick and the statement, and will he stand or will he not stand, do you really think people want some issue like that on their team? I'm not talking about the players. I'm talking about, do you think fans and do you think that ownership wants that type of bullshit going on? This whole idea that it's a distraction in the locker room, to me, is irrelevant. I think Colin Kaepernick has plenty of talent, as much as I hate him as a player. I've always hated him before the political issue came out. I've hated him because he's a haughty bastard. But, and when I say bastard, it has nothing to do with his origin, okay? I'm just saying he's an asshole, okay? You happy? That way I don't have to apologize when this video comes out. I've hated him for so long, but I can acknowledge that, yes, he deserves a spot on an NFL roster. There's plenty of awful quarterbacks that have been playing today. Look, Pittsburgh's Ben Roethlisberger had 5 interceptions today and lost the game. I wonder, okay, between you and me, you the audience and me the commentator, do you think that the Pittsburgh Steelers fan base, who have been burning jerseys just because of the other Pittsburgh players' anthem protests, do you think that they're going to be very receptive to Colin Kaepernick backing up Ben Roethlisberger? I don't think so. I think that those people, they've already become committed to rejecting this whole political narrative in football. And as for Harvey Weinstein, I just want to leave with this. Harvey Weinstein, he enjoyed decades of giving people the entertainment that they wanted, and changing people's lives with art that had meaning. But as a producer and as somebody in a position of power, he's definitely shown that entire world is a fraud. The Hollywood world is a production meant to distract people from the real issues that they have in their own day-to-day world. And when you see these people at award ceremonies honoring people like Harvey Weinstein over the years, Weinstein over the years, you have Meryl Streep standing up for Roman Polanski a few years ago, who also he fled to France in order to avoid rape charges. I think you have to seriously question whether these people actually know that the rest of America can formulate an opinion without them. We see people that they don't seem to have a conscience. They don't seem to have a grasp of what really makes people, tune into their movies or not. That's why they need producers. That's why they need, screen adapters and whatever, or screenwriters to take these stories and adapt them to film. Most of these actors, you'll notice, these actors and other people that appear in front of the camera, the majority of them could never get ahead behind the camera. You have a very few of them, like Clint Eastwood and Mel Gibson, and I want to say Sofia Coppola, that they've made the transition from being in front of the camera to being in the back. Compared to how many do you know that they've been in front of the camera for so many years and they're virtually incompetent? I hear that Robert De Niro is basically almost unintelligible when he gets in front, when he actually is talking off script. So that's what I want to leave you today with. Please like this video, share, subscribe. Let me know your thoughts on the Weinstein debacle and on the Cam Newton issue and on all the other issues that I raised today. Maybe there will be a live stream later. And please check out my Catalonia interview with Nuria Clotet and Humberto Gonzalez that aired earlier today. Leave your comments, and as usual, have a happy Sunday.